So Keenan Anderson is the latest person to get the Black Lives Matter myth treatment from the mainstream media, and interestingly enough, this person who died in police custody is actually related to BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors. Now, we've done stories on Patrisse Cullors and how she's spending Black Lives Matter money. In fact, they recently filed the form that they have not filed in California, which just goes to show you how much of a scam that organization actually is. But we will leave that for another day. Today, we're going to be talking about the Young Turks' response to this whole situation and how wildly inaccurate they are. Are you even surprised that they would be so inaccurate in their reporting? Now, there's no sponsor for today's video, just giving a special thank you to everybody who signed up on Patreon, Subscribestar, and over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join, members on YouTube too. You get early access to the videos. I appreciate you. Let's get into the TYT video without further ado.
So earlier this month, there was a black man. His name is Keenan Anderson. He died from cardiac arrest after police officers restrained and repeatedly tased him over and over and over and over and over again. This was on January 3rd. He was in the middle of the street flagging down cops. Body cam footage has now been released about what happened.
So let's talk about the setup to this clip by the Young Turks. So first and foremost, he wasn't tased over and over and over again after he was being restrained. He was tased as a form of restraint because he was resisting arrest. Secondly, this was not a situation where it was a car accident and a man in distress. Keenan Anderson, who was high on drugs, caused the car accident, attempted to carjack an Uber driver, and the police were called specifically on Keenan Anderson. Now, you can make the case that maybe you think police force was excessive in this case or not, but what you shouldn't do is lie about why the cops are even there in the first place, because then that completely undercuts your credibility going forward.
Let's watch from the very beginning, though, as cops arrived on this scene, which seemed to be a car accident and a man in distress. Watch that.
Where are you at? The driver? Get off to the side here. Get on the street. Hey, stop right there. Get up against the wall. I didn't need to. Get up against the wall. Please, I didn't need to. Get up against the wall. Get up against the wall real quick. Please.
Keenan then was distraught, already jumped to his knees, hands on his head, almost hands behind his back as well. Seemed like a general time to find out what it is that's going on. He also appeared to be flagging them down, so he starts talking to the cops here. Let's watch that part.
J.R. Jackson is such an unbelievably embarrassing liar, it's ridiculous. You can see in the beginning of the video that Keenan Anderson was not flagging down the police officers, he was not calling them for help, as the myth purports that the Young Turks is pushing forward. He was running away from the cops. The cop chased him down on the motorcycle, and by the way, he was identified by other people as the cause, as the perpetrator, and as the reason why the cops were there in the first place. So it's a good time to find out why they're there. They already know why they're there, because Anderson caused the accident, then tried to carjack an Uber driver because he's high on drugs, and you can see that he is high on drugs by his erratic behavior.
The car. Okay, what happened?
I lost my key.
You lost your key?
Yes. I came and I had somebody fix my car for me, sir. Please, don't, please,
Okay,
sir.
do me a favor, sit in your,
please.
hey,
Sir, please.
sit down on your butt and sit with your legs crossed. Sit with your legs crossed. Sit with your legs crossed.
They're gonna try to kill me, please.
Who's trying to kill you?
I had a stunt today.
What?
I had a stunt today, sir.
You had what?
A stunt. Like, no, in the next car.
Okay, what car were you driving?
BMW.
The BMW.
They're gonna try to put stuff in my car.
Who's trying to put stuff in your car?
They're gonna try to.
So as you can see, Anderson is absolutely distraught. He is going a little wild. He's talking a bunch of nonsense, talking about them putting stuff in his car. He might be referring to drugs, since at this moment he is clearly on drugs, having a little bit of an episode. He's the one who caused the accident, and again, he just tried to carjack an Uber, which we will get into and I will prove to you a little bit later. But yeah, obviously not making sense. The officer is trying to get him to sit Indian style so that he can't get up and take off, because remember, when he showed up on the scene, this guy was already running erratically, trying to get away. You can see the paranoia, you can see the craziness. All this stuff is adding up to what is going to be a bad police encounter.
Not really sure what he's talking about or who's they and what stuff they're going to put in his car. Maybe some alarm bells might start going off that this guy needs help, whichever kind that you might be able to help him with. So in true police fashion, they helped him like this. Let's watch this.
So JR, the smug Monday morning quarterback in this moment, is like, maybe some alarm bells are going off that he might need help. Yeah, that's why they're trying to get him to stop, not let him run away, because this guy is either a danger to himself potentially, or more accurately, based on the reason why the police were called here, because he was driving like crazy, caused an accident, and then tried to carjack an Uber driver, a danger to other people.
I'm sorry, Mary 156. Show me code 6 on a TC not involved.
Please.
We're going to be Venice, west of Lincoln.
Oh my God.
Possible DUI driver. I get additional units, please.
So that's why they're trying to get him sat down and calm down, get him in cuffs, and then they could sort out the rest of this later.
Maybe some alarm bells might start going off that this guy needs help, whichever kind that you might be able to help him with. So in true police fashion, they helped him like this. Let's watch this.
Somebody got to see me, sir.
Have a seat
I don't want to be in the
wall
black.
over here.
I want people to see me.
Sure. Okay, you can sit right there then. If you want to be seen, sit right there.
No, I don't want to.
Sit right there if you want to have somebody see you.
Please.
Okay?
Putting a thing on me.
Sit down. I'm not putting anything. Come here. Sit down over here.
Please.
I don't want you in the road.
Please.
Come here. I don't want you in the road. Come here.
Please.
Come here.
Please.
Come here.
Please. Please.
Come here. Now, get down over there.
So I know we're shown this video and it has the warning and the graphic thing and all that, and JR's like, oh, he didn't want to help him and all of that. But he's clearly trying to be calm with this guy. He's saying, oh, okay, if you want to be seen, because he knows he's having a bit of a paranoid episode, then you could sit down in public. Somebody in the crowd is saying, hey, we can see you, you're going to be okay, just to calm him down. And the officer is not immediately escalating to force.
Somebody got to see me, sir.
Have a seat
I don't want to be in the
wall
black.
over here.
I want people to see me.
Sure. Okay, you can sit right there then. If you want to be seen, sit right there.
No, I don't want to.
Sit right there if you want to have somebody see you.
Please.
Okay?
Putting a thing on me.
Sit down. I'm not putting anything. Come here. Sit down over here.
Please.
I don't want you in the road. Come here. I don't want you in the road.
I mean, it's right there in the video. You can hear it for yourself. If you're watching on video format, you can see it's subtitled. The officer is being calm and trying to get him to sit wherever he is comfortable because he doesn't want this to escalate. This is de-escalation, by the way, but Anderson is not having any of that. Then he tells him, hey, look, I don't want you in the road. I'm not trying to get you hit by a car. Like, come on, just come over here. Just relax. He's not pursuing him. He's not trying to be aggressive. His tone is very not aggressive. And then Anderson, of course, takes off and runs in the middle of the street.
Over on your stomach. Get over on your stomach.
Hold on. Okay, please. Please, sir, please don't do this. Please don't do this, sir. Please. Help me, please. No, help me, please. No, please help me. Help me, please. Please, please.
So then, as you can see, Anderson is resisting arrest, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut off the video here because it's going to get too violent, and then YouTube's going to flag me and punish me in ways that they won't punish other channels for showing you this very same footage. But I will play some of the audio so you can hear. He's saying they're trying to George Floyd me. He already said they're trying to kill him. He's already really paranoid about the cops, and this is one of the reasons why you shouldn't use a whole bunch of drugs, especially if you're connected to a woke organization that always talks about how the cops are out to get you. If you heighten your paranoia and you're already paranoid by the police, then you can end up in an encounter like this. And by the way, the cops are trying to hold him, they're trying to tase him, they're trying to cuff him.
You're trying to George Floyd me. You're trying to George Floyd me.
Stop it or I'm going to tase you. Okay, stop it or I'm going to tase you. Stop it or I'm going to tase you. Stop resisting.
Please.
Stop resisting.
Please. Please. Please.
I'm going to tase him. I'm going to tase him.
They're trying to kill me. They're trying to kill me. Hit me low.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Yes, sir.
Don't resist.
No.
Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
Okay.
Stop it.
Help.
Stop it.
Help, please. Help.
But if you watch this full video, and it will be linked in the description, not just the Young Turks video, but I will link the full body cam footage that is available, you will see that the cops are trying to restrain him, but he's fighting back against the officers. Then they bring out the taser, the less lethal option. They try to tase him, and they keep tasing him, and then they try to cuff him. He fights back. So then the tasing resumes.
For the sake of how disgusting that got, we stopped it then, but it went on for another 30, 40 seconds of them doing that to him. You have to ask yourself the question, so what was the taser supposed to do? Stop it, stop it, stop it. Or you'll keep doing this, then what happens? Or maybe he's still moving as you're tasing the hell out of him.
So the way that JR is asking these questions legitimately would make you think that if you took him in earnest, that he might be stupid, because he's like, what was the taser supposed to do in this scenario? It was supposed to restrain him, JR. They were trying to restrain him. You see, they're trying to handcuff him. He's fighting back. He's going crazy, talking about how they're going to George Floyd him. Already before the cops even really grab him, he's like, oh, they're going to kill me. I'm going to die in this scenario. Basically being the author of his own peril, self-fulfilling prophecy, whatever you want to call it. So they try to go with the less lethal option in order to get him restrained, but he keeps fighting back. If you watch the video, he's fighting back up until the point that he dies.
We have a few more details of what then happened afterwards and how this then ended horribly. Paramedics arrived, took Keenan to the hospital. According to LAPD, though, Keenan died about 4.5 hours later at the hospital. The LAPD now, in the other part about this, did include a witness statement. There was a video that they did also post about along with the body cam evidence, saying that a man, he claimed that Keenan caused the accident and tried to steal a woman's car there as well. Not sure if that ever got discussed or talked about, if someone else was there to have this conversation. But that's where I guess their aggression came from.
Now they referenced that video. Let me play it for you so you can hear this guy himself and what he said.
That guy right there, he caused that accident. He was trying to steal my car. Yeah, the police is doing the right job right now. Don't think that the police is abusing him. He was trying to go away.
I think that guy's in a very paranoid state.
I'm an Uber driver and he was trying to steal my car when he hit the other cars right there.
Shit, was he in the car?
Huh? Yeah, he was in the BM side right there.
That's a taser.
Yeah, they're using the taser, right? That's good, man.
So you can understand the context of this situation.
It seemed a little bit more like frustration and a lack of patience, because he kept trying. Hey, sit down. Hey, do this. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. But he was preoccupied with something else that he thought, or he seemed to be going on for what he could tell.
So the idea that the cop didn't have any patience, when he showed up, asked him to go stand against the wall. He doesn't do that. He gets down. Then he gets up, doesn't want to be covered or whatever. He wants to be seen. And the cop changes the orders in order to kind of comply with what Keenan is asking for so that he can get Keenan to comply. Is ridiculous and absurd. The officer showed a bunch of patience. Now, your patience runs out when the guy who tried to carjack somebody, when the guy who you're there for, who caused the accident, ends up taking off into the street, and then he starts resisting arrest. But even then, it's not like they lost patience and decided to kill the guy. The guy pulled out a taser because he was unable to restrain Keenan. All three of the officers were unable to restrain him, and they went for a less lethal option, and that ultimately ended up maybe resulting in Keenan Anderson's death.
And instead, it turned to tasing, it turned to arrest. Again, though, for what? I think just general impatience.
JR, I'll give you a hint. It would be for driving while intoxicated, causing an accident, fleeing the accident, and attempted carjacking, then resisting arrest. Do you need me to write down those charges so you can understand why the cops were trying to restrain this guy? Do you need me to break it down for you? Do you need a mathematical formula for you to understand that? He keeps pretending that it was like, oh, whoopsie upsies. It was just a guy randomly in distress. There was a car accident nearby. He had no real connection to the car accident, but he was in distress, and the officer should have been like, hey, buddy, listen, calm down, which, by the way, the officer did do. And then he should have not been so forceful with them, which, by the way, is what the officer opened with, and that resulted in Keenan Anderson running into the street and then fighting off the other officers while they were trying to restrain him.
Again, as you saw at the bottom there, co-founder of BLM, Patrice Cullors, that is her cousin. Also, Keenan was a teacher, and he was visiting from D.C. But last thing on this before I open it up to you guys, though, the LAPD has blamed his death not on the taser that was used over and over and over again, but on what was in his system. Police Chief Michael Moore claimed that a preliminary blood test revealed cannabis and cocaine in Anderson's system. A formal cause of death, however, has not been determined. and advocates have criticized the department for releasing that information and suggesting drug use was related to his death.
I mean, the drugs might be related to his death, but we don't have a formal cause of death right now. So of all the criticisms so far levied in this video, this would be the most valid. They threw out the fact that he was on drugs, even though it's kind of self-evident, and that might have contributed to his death without any actual evidence from a coroner or somebody who did an autopsy to indicate that that is why his heart was vulnerable, or he went into excited delirium, or whatever related to this. And they give the time of death for 4 hours later and all of that, so we don't know what, when, why, and all of that. So maybe releasing the drug toxicology report this early isn't a good thing.
I mean, usually we go for the facts part about this, but let's just say what's in the system and then let that get out into the public and let that seep into people's consciousness and figure out which way they want to determine what happened before we really find out.
I mean, JR, you can't really criticize them for leaking out that actual fact that is related to his actual toxicology report when you're trying to forward your narrative, push it out into the public, cut clips out of context in order to support your hypothesis without any evidence to back it up. So maybe if you want to make this case, don't be the Young Turks, don't do the segment exactly how you did it, and you'd have some credibility to make that argument.
Yeah, like, did that cop know that he was going to kill a man that day? I mean, when he was tasing him and the man was clearly incapacitated, did he have to keep tasing him? It's like what you were saying. It just seems like impatience, like a really poorly managed situation.
Again, this is not true. This person, I don't know who she is, must be a new person over at the Young Turks, is trying to tell you not to believe your lying eyes. Go watch the video. They're tasing him as he's resisting, as he's calling out, as he's panicking, as they're trying to handcuff him. They don't tase him after he's done resisting. They try to make it seem like this was done punitively or something like that, but as soon as he goes lifeless, they're not tasing him anymore because the goal of the taser was to get him into the restraints. So she's just lying right here about the sequence of events.
And we already know what people are going to say about this, that he was apparently committing a crime, so the cops did what they had to do in the name of public safety. But people are supposed to be able to commit crimes and not be killed on the spot for doing so, especially not in like such a horrendous way.
He wasn't killed on the spot intentionally for committing a crime. He was resisting arrest. They were trying to restrain him. He may have died as a complication of that police restraint, specifically the use of the taser in that scenario. You're trying to add in intent when you even said, oh, this guy didn't think he was going to kill someone that day. Well, yeah, he didn't, because obviously you used a less lethal weapon when you don't want to kill someone.
Yeah, I think JR honestly hit it right on the head when he said they exercised the lack of patience. I think that's what this feels like. It felt like a rush job. Clearly, none of the officers were in danger. No other citizens were in danger. Besides the body cam, the guy who's in possession of the body cam, you can clearly see 2 other officers. So it's 3 of them there trying to restrain this guy.
Go watch the video. The officer is taking his time. He shows unbelievable patience early on. And the fact that there's 3 officers there is great and all that. It would be a good argument if it weren't for the fact that on video we can see him fighting against those 3 officers and fighting off the restraints. Like, they should have physically assaulted him. Can you imagine if they would have started punching him in the head while he's face down on the concrete? People would have been freaking out and calling police abuse on that. They went for a taser because typically the taser produces the compliance that you want, and unfortunately, due to the concoction of drugs, maybe due to the taser, maybe due to the length of the taser, all some factors that we don't know about at this moment, he ended up passing away as a result of it. But make no mistake, this was a result of his behavior.
If they would have just took their time to be patient to deal with somebody who's clearly going through some kind of manic episode, right? We don't know if it's drug induced. We don't know if it's, he's having a psychotic break or whatever. There's no way to know that by just showing up. But, it's 3 of you guys there. You're subduing the guy. Nobody else is in danger. I think they could have easily used more restraint and exercised some more patience.
So this guy keeps saying nobody else was in danger, but you don't know that if you're the officers. This guy is fleeing from an accident. He's fleeing from a crime. You haven't checked him. You haven't looked for any weapons or anything like that. If you give the patience and you just chit chat with them, you shoot the breeze and all that and have a conversation, and this guy pulls out a gun because you assumed he's safe, then other people are in danger. Again, he also ran towards traffic, and part of the reason why you're there is because he just tried to carjack somebody. So you have a guy going through a paranoid, manic episode, whatever you want to call it, that has not been checked. He's running into the street. He's fighting off restraints. Obviously, he's some level of danger. Now, the cops didn't assess him as a lethal threat, which is why they didn't go for the firearm, the lethal weapon. They went for the taser because they were just trying to restrain him. And again, go watch the beginning of the interaction. If you tell me that officer wasn't patient, you're just lying.
You guys both live in major cities near enough to the fact, Waz, you're out in L.A. As we know, you represent, the Houston area, am I right?
Houston, yeah.
You guys have seen people maybe walking down the street in dangerous areas of the street, maybe not completely realizing the danger that they're in or too preoccupied with something else that they're experiencing to really notice it. I saw it 3 days ago as I was walking my dog. Main major street in the middle of Los Angeles. There's a woman swinging arms and going very quickly and erratically down the street. My first thought wasn't, somebody needs to taser her.
This is quite literally the stupidest point that JR could possibly make. The police were called for Keenan Anderson. They were there for him. He caused the accident, according to the witness on the scene, and he tried to carjack somebody. So this idea that this is the equivalent of you just walking down the street and seeing somebody having a little bit of an episode, and then all of a sudden the cops came in and intentionally killed them, when none of that happened, that is not any of the circumstances of this case, is absurd and insane. JR, you're talking nonsense. You're making stuff up. You're lying. That's what you do for a living. And this guy lives in LA. This girl lives in Houston. Haven't you seen some crazy stuff?
Someone needs to pin her on the ground, put handcuffs on her, and tase her. I was like, I hope she doesn't get hit because she's kind of crossing the street crazy right now. And I'm not sure how much danger she's involved in. The next thought wasn't, let's find a way to kill her. Now, I know that wasn't his intention. Maybe it wasn't at the beginning of this.
I know that wasn't his intention. Maybe it wasn't at the beginning of this. So now JR is saying that the officer committed a murder here. He intended to kill him with the taser, which he tased him until he stopped moving because he was trying to get him into the handcuffs. But JR's like, well, maybe he just wanted to kill him. Evil white racism, white racism.
And I think it's pretty convenient to tell folks this non-lethal weapon that has killed many, many people after using it because you don't know people's health history and their backgrounds, what kind of cardiac situations they're involved in, or just the fact of how afraid they are and how freaked out someone may get in one of these situations. I'm not sure if retraining has to happen, but even if that is the solution, would that really happen? No, but more people just continue to die.
I'm not sure if retraining is the solution, but even if that was needed, would that really happen, or more people would just continue to die? It's like JR is one of those AIs, and you asked it to give the most generic, worthless commentary related to a news story where a black person dies in police custody. What he's saying is not even remotely attached to the reality of the situation, and it's just embarrassing. It's humiliating to watch. It's horrible. This is what happens when you have your producer, the guy that's supposed to manage sound and video, giving political commentary because the Young Turks, for the longest time, had him as the only black person on staff.
Yeah, and it's true, like what you were saying, whenever you see somebody who's going through something on the street, your first thought isn't to hurt them or to get rid of them. It's usually just like, I hope they're okay. If you're a normal person, I think that's usually what you would think. And living in big cities, you do see a lot of things. You're exposed to a lot of people. A lot of people are living very different experiences than the life that you're living. And we have to be able to understand that and allow for that in our cities and in our public spaces.
Yeah, you just have to understand and allow for the fact that people are going to be committing crimes, getting into car accidents because they're high on drugs, trying to steal cars, and then resisting arrest. And if your first instinct is to kill that person, boy howdy, are you a bad person. What a great point, JR, on this lady from Houston that nobody's ever heard of right here on the Young Turks.
But it just wasn't the case. I don't see where this urgency comes from. They could have just subdued this guy in, a fashion that would have got him to the hospital without him dying.
Or talk to him like he was speaking
right
to you.
Well,
he stopped and did the whole thing before they said anything. That's kind of a situation where you can maybe ingratiate yourself and then maybe have a conversation.
Talking.
Am I going crazy here, or did this random guy that they brought onto the Young Turks and JR just say that the cops should have done exactly what they did do in this video? He's like, oh, they should have tried to tackle him and get him to the ground, and that's the way they should have tried to restrain him. They did do that. Guess what? It didn't work. This guy was fighting off all three of the officers. That's why the taser came out. And then JR's like, oh, they should have tried to talk to him. The officer did do that. He was talking to him. Then he took off and ran away. What the hell are you guys talking about? You show us a video and you're like, I'm going to Monday morning quarterback the police in this situation. And here's what I'm going to suggest that the police should have done. Everything that didn't work, that led up to them using the taser in that situation.
It's crazy how that whole thing works.
And they say it so smugly and so confidently, even though, again, we don't know anything about the cause of death. Now, it leads me to believe, since the tasing happened before this guy died, that they're likely to be related. But let's be clear, this guy was high up on drugs. There is a such thing as excited delirium syndrome, and his time of death was 4.5 hours after this encounter. Now, to be clear, a lot of channels would take that 4.5 hours later kind of argument and say that that's when he died, that's when he had cardiac arrest, therefore, the cops definitely had nothing to do with it. But we don't do that nonsense over here on this channel. Anybody who's had somebody die in their family that's had them on life support before they died knows that you can keep somebody alive on life support so the family could come in and say their goodbyes, even though they're not really there and they're never going to recover. And then after that, you pull the plug, and that's when they actually died. Then the cause of death is the cardiac arrest, and the time of death is the time that you pulled the plug. So he could have had the cardiac situation earlier on. There's a reason why they took him to the hospital. Then they kept him on life support for 4.5 hours. Then he dies 4.5 hours later after the family comes in and all that. They say their goodbyes, blah, 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 because that's how this kind of thing works. Obviously, somebody died in this, and it's tragic, and I understand people's emotional response to this. I'll even cut a bit of a break to somebody like Patrisse Cullors, because this is a member of her family, even though she's using this as a way to get people more invested in the BLM cause. But even in the worst case scenario, the worst interpretation of this situation, it's clearly and obviously an accidental death. Police have firearms on them. If they want to kill somebody, presumably they could just shoot him. But instead, he used the taser sparingly to restrain him, but the guy kept fighting back. And as he fought back, he said, "I'm going to tase you," and then he re-tased him. The idea that he was tasing him after he was already out or anything like that is ridiculous. It's an absurd claim, and there's a reason why the Young Turks cut the video before making that claim, because if you saw the video for yourself, you would know that that is not the case. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, then you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all the social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about the Keenan Anderson case. Till next time.